I'm Nu-Trix, and today we're going to talk about my search for my next Groovebox. There's so many choices today. There's so much options of buying stuff that it's difficult to find the right one, and finding the right one is not just watching videos and understanding the features, because you can have the right features, but still the product's not for you. The device, the instrument does not feel right. The inspiration doesn't come. The workflow is wrong. And even if all the capacity of the device, the features, the integration option, the in and outs of it fits with my kit, it might still not be the right piece. So how did I look into all of this? I started this reflection a couple of months ago when I looked into my gear and I said, there's stuff that I haven't used for years, then I should get rid of. And it was a TR-8S that was one of the pieces that got sold. And my question for myself was like, how is it that I want to sell this where it's a flagship of drum machines today? And the answer was simple, is that I was not inspired by the workflow, by the device itself, and I found myself using it less and less because of that. One of the reasons is the song mode, which is missing in my needs, in my view of how I want to make music. So I got to the realization that what I'm actually looking for is a Groovebox, not a drum machine. I have actually more than one drum machine, so I'm good on that aspect. But it means that I'm looking for a Groovebox. I had a Novation circuit at one point. Now it's dead. I patched the wrong power supply in it and it burnt. My history with Grooveboxes go back a long time. I had in the 90s, I bought this. That was the Y70 from Yamaha. It was a portable, and it's still a portable sequencer, sound generator. You could have, I think it was like 12 different tracks, full synthesizer, something you would have in a rack mount or a keyboard at the time from Yamaha. But finishing your song with it was kind of limited because of the quality of the output, and there was no audio to USB. It was before USB. Wow, it's that old. But so what I did at the time is I actually bought the same generator, the same sound generator from Yamaha on a DSP card that went into my computer. So I had the same engine, portable and in the computer. So I bought it twice if you want. And I was able to finish the song that I started here with the rest of my gear in the studio, the home studio. Now today, I still want to have that type of logic because I like to compose in a very closed format. When I have something that is what I think a demo of a song or a 70% finished song, now I bring it into the rest of the studio and I flesh it out with everything else that I have. So I'm looking for a piece of gear that can do almost a full song, that is portable if possible, but it's not the end of the world if it's not. I'm looking for something that is solid, well built, that the workflow is inspiring. That's the hard part to understand or to guess, because unless you really actually work with the device, how do you know if the workflow is right for you? So I watched a lot of videos, not about the tutorials and the reviews, because that gives you information about mostly the features, but I watch a lot of people making songs with these devices to understand if the one that I have on my list had the workflow that I actually enjoyed, and I felt it was natural for me to do so. I have about $1,000 US. It's not that, but it's in Canadian because I'm in Montreal, Canada. So it's 1,300 or 1,400 Canadian, so around $1,000 US. My logic is I don't need to buy new if I don't have to. I can buy used. Most of my gear I have open boxes, refurbish, demos. So I was looking locally to what can you get for that money, you know, about $1,000 US. So I'm a synth guy. I just don't want a drum machine or just samples. It can have samples, and actually I would like to go back into sample. I used samples in the 90s, so I'm thinking about that. But this groove box that I'm looking for needs to have synthesizers in it, or at least synthesis features, not just sampling. That's what I'm looking for. It has to be, if possible, USB compliant, because it means that this will work with computers and an iPad, even if they stop supporting it. That's my view of hardware. I want a piece of a hardware that I can keep a long time, even in 20 years. It has to be autonomous and be able to work by itself. I've got hardware here that are more than 20 years old and it still works because of the fact that it doesn't need a computer to work. Of course, if you have a computer, it's just more pleasant because you've got, let's say, software to control it or back up the memory and stuff like that, or have multiple audio in and out. But if you don't have that, it still works and fully works. So the fact that it's USB compliant is always a plus. The fact that you don't need the software to have access to everything. Of course, if you have one, it's a plus, but that's it. And I want something that is also, that keeps its own value. Meaning if I buy something at $1,000, if I don't like it in 6 months, I want to be able to sell it and not lose a lot of money, or even not lose anything and sell it at the same price. Just because by playing with it, I might find that the workflow is not the right one for me by playing with it. So that's kind of where I started. So the list I made was, I first looked at everything that I could see online, new or used locally. And in the Korg area, you had the Volcas and the electribe. Volcas, that's not what I'm looking for. I want a bigger piece. Electribe, I never got into the mindset of the electribe too much. And so it gradually faded out of my vision. I'm looking more for something that will spark new ideas. So not the Roland. I had a Roland MC707. I sold it. So I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for something else. And Novation, I had a Novation circuit. Nice. I have a Novation mono station. I still love it. But I want something different. In the end, I rounded up 3 different companies. Akai with the MPC series, so 1 plus MPC Live or Live 2. That was the 3 I was looking for, maybe. The Polyend, I really like what Polyend is doing, but in the end it was mostly the Play Plus, because the Play can do sampling and synthesis, so that's kind of where I was looking for. I went back to the MPC, looking at what they can do. I watched a lot of people explain how they work, how they create with the MPC, how the workflow is. And it seemed to me that the MPC much more like a DAW. It's not a DAW, but it's closer to that MPC type of approach, which is more sample, control, and pads. I'm not very much a sampler player. I'm a synth guy. So the MPC is an option. But right now, I'm not looking for that, I think. So I was left with 2 options. Either I go with Electron, Digitakt, but the new one, the 2, too much. And it's mostly a sampler, which is fun, but I want a synthesizer. So there's the Syntakt, and there's the Digitone 2. Well, the Syntakt as digital and analog synthesizer. It can be drum and synth, which is cool. And the Digitone is mostly FM and digital synthesis. So, okay, another option. But then the Digitone 1 and the Digitakt 1 are really affordable. In here, they're around 700 Canadian. So around 500 US, I would say. So the price could be interesting. So the Play Plus could be sampling and synthesizer and portable. But as I looked into it, you have, for me, a lot more menu diving. You can go probably deeper in it, but you have a lot more menu diving. The workflow is totally different. So in the end, which one do you guess I did decide to take? Play Plus or Electron? Put in your vote in. I decided to go with the Syntakt. Now, a synthesizer. I'm a synth guy, so a synthesizer, that is a drum machine, a synthesizer, 4 analog synthesizer, and 8 digital one. I did try it just for one evening to be sure that everything worked on it correctly, because I bought it used and an amazing price. I haven't played too much with it. I'm very, very curious to play with it and go further in it, but you'll see a lot of Electron videos on my channel in the near future. I'm going to finish the one I started for the drum log now. The Syntakt is coming in the next weeks, month. If you have any question about the Syntakt, if anything you want me to talk about or to explore, I'll look into that. One part that I found difficult when looking for how these devices worked is that every time you looked at a piece of gear, you had these videos about the YouTubers explaining when they released the device what it could do, but some of them are 2-3 years old, and since then they added a lot of new features. So in 2025, the Digitakt 1 does a lot more than when it was released. So even today, getting into the Digitakt 1, we go, okay, it doesn't do just what was shown in the original release. It does a lot more. So it was hard to have a good understanding of what it can do today. So what I'll do with the Syntakt when I go deeper in it, I will explain what you can do with it in 2025, because that's the deal. You know, since it was released, how many updates there was, and what are the new features, if there's any. So if you have any question, put them below, and they'll be part of my experience of diving deeper into the Syntakt. So I'm going to learn the Electron sequencer and workflow, hoping that it will spark new ideas and trigger my musical muse to be inspired. That's it. Stay safe, make more music, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.